boys and girls. I'm excited that you're here today to listen to my story. So I want you to find a good, comfortable spot, sit back and relax and just be ready to listen. But first, let me tell you just a couple of things about myself. My name is Jylene Morgan. That's my author name. But I have two names. When I read aloud, I have the name of Grandma Grape. So I read aloud as Grandma Grape's Reading Corner. So let me get started. This is a book that I have written. The name of it is There Was a Moose on Clifford Street. And you know, have you ever seen a moose on your street? I haven't, but my granddaughter did. She saw one on Clifford Street, and that's the name of this book. And it's There Was a Moose on Clifford Street, written by Jylene Morgan, that's me, and illustrated by Sean Winburn. Okay, let's go ahead and get the book started. Clifford Street runs down the outer edge of town. The top of the street starts in the parking lot, then gently curves down to Hailey's house. Hailey is ready to go to school today, but today is Hailey's turn to share during circle time, and she can't think of anything to share. Hailey thought, I don't feel like going to school today. Nothing exciting ever happens around here. Just then Mama called, Come on, everyone get in the van. We're going to be late if we don't hurry. Hailey jumped in the van, settled back into the seat, and closed her eyes, and Mom started to back out. Stop! Came a loud shriek from outside the van. Startled, Hailey sat straight up and pressed her face against the window. She saw Mrs. Brown running towards them. Mrs. Brown jumped breathlessly into the van, shouting, There's a moose on Clifford Street! There's a moose on Clifford Street! Hailey couldn't believe her eyes when they rounded the curve at the top of the Clifford Street. Sure enough, there was a moose on Clifford Street. The moose was humongous. He was dark brown with huge antlers and was running as fast as he could across the parking lot. His head was tilted so far back that the huge antlers lay straight across his dark back. The moose saw the van and stopped abruptly. Suddenly, he looked very frightened. He was breathing heavy, and the air whooshed out of his nose. His nostrils flared in and out with every breath, and a burst of white, steaming air flashed into the coolness of the morning. Mrs. Brown jumped out of the van, ran up her sidewalk, and yelled, Who should I call? Should I call the police? I know. I'll call the police. I'll tell them there is a moose on Clifford Street. The large black moose turned and ran along the parking lot fence. Mom sighed and said, Oh, the poor thing. He's trapped. He can't get over the fence. The moose is trapped on Clifford Street. At that moment, the moose turned and without any effort jumped over the fence and landed in a garden. He tromped through the tomato and pumpkin vines and then jumped the fence again and headed back into the parking lot. The faint sound of sirens could be heard coming from the middle of town. They grew louder and louder as they raced towards the moose on Clifford Street. A police car raced up and screeched to a halt. In a few seconds, another police car raced up and slammed to a stop. Then the dog catcher, in his pickup with a small wire cage, slid in behind. Mother whispered under her breath, Do they think they are going to put the moose on Clifford Street in that small cage? All three doors flew open at the same time, and out jumped three policemen. They ran toward the moose, then stopped and began to whisper to each other. The voices grew louder and louder, and they were pointed excitedly at the moose. The policemen started to stomp hard on the ground. They waved their hands and shouted, "Shoo! Shoo! Get out of here! Go away!" Hailey said, "I don't think they know what to do with the moose on Clifford Street." The moose lowered his head, pawed the ground slowly, took a few steps forward, and let out a long, loud, shrill squeal. Then he bellowed even louder, shook his antlers hard, and ran toward the policemen. The 3 policemen turned and ran as fast as they could and jumped into their cars. The moose charged towards the police cars with his head lowered. He shook his head furiously with his antlers pointed straight ahead. Then in the next instant, he whirled, let out a victorious bellow, and fled across the parking lot, through the sagebrush, and into the hills. Then, when Hailey finally arrived at school, she ran into her classroom, plunked herself down in the circle-timed circle, and loudly said, "There was a moose on Clifford Street." My name is Jylene Morgan, and I have just read you my book, There Was a Moose on Clifford Street. Thank you for watching. I hope you had a good time, and I'll see you next time on Grandma Grape's Reading Corner.